And this session and all of that we're going to learn today should be also dedicated to Rifah Shlema, our dear Rabbi Yaron Shlita. His name is Yaron Ben Doris. The surgery, as I understood, scheduled for tomorrow. I'm not sure what time, but usually they do in the morning. BeEzrat HaShem. He should have a full recovery. Also, Rifah Shlema to Imim Rasi Rachel Bas Brindel, Ariela Ora Bas Anna, David Shlomo Ben Sandra. Right, and also a quick release of Moshe Shmuel Ben Pnina, BeEzrat HaShem, and Tzlacha Rabba to Giberes Chana Bas Avram Avinu. Also tomorrow is a big day, BeEzrat HaShem. Okay, so Hashem should help and bless the whole family. So in the merit of all of the good deeds that the whole family does, right, and learning and tzedakah, they should be successful despite of all of the evil that people want to do to them. BeEzrat HaShem. All right. So we continue today with our class Shabbos Home. Right, and we're on chapter 27, and our big topic is scraping. So just to go a little back, right? So we're in a subsection, right? Subsection using cream and ointments for somebody who is ill, right? And we describe several types of ill people, and this actually, as we said, it's not only in regards to ointments, it's regards to everything else, right? So we said that the first category of illness, life is in danger, right? So life in danger. So a person is obligated to do everything possible on biblical, every possible, even it's forbidden biblical or rabbinical level. So it doesn't matter, right? He can do it himself, right? If time is not an essence, so we can ask a non-Jew, right? And instead we can instruct non-Jew to do forbidden act. But technically we can do it ourselves. Again, if it's life, but its time is not a matter, so we try to do it in Shiur. If it's on biblically forbidden Shiur, we say like deviation. So if somebody like need to smear something, right, and you need to smear anyway, so do it with a spoon or something. So which is nobody usually does it this way. Okay. Then we say there is a second type of illness, not life-threatening. So for this person, we cannot transgress biblical transgressions, right? But we can ask non-Jew to transgress biblically forbidden acts, but we can transgress rabbinically forbidden acts. Okay, so meaning if we need, for example, to get some medicine from the pharmacy or something, so we can ask non-Jew to do it for us, for example. And some poskim said, and it's actually, as we said before, we can rely in a case of need. So if you don't have access to non-Jew, so this poskim said, if this person in this situation, so meaning person has to require like a bed rest. It could be even flu, right? Even flu or some other like problems, like we say the severe headache, earache. Like I remember a few times in my life I have the earache. I thought like my head is about to explode, like some sharp things have been stuck in my head. It's so painful. It's unbelievable, so painful. Right. So meaning, it's only one organ, like, but person need to take to bed, right? So meaning, right? So in this category, is it life-threatening? Most likely not. Unless there's infection, but most likely it's like curable. It's not that. So we said even if it's not life-threatening, so again we can do rabbinically. We can do rabbinically prohibited things for that person. biblically forbidden, we should ask non-Jew. But there is was lenient opinion from some poskim who said that we actually can perform biblically forbidden actions, but with a shinui. Right? As we said before, shinui is like with a deviation. It's right. If somebody does it with a shinui, never gets the death penalty. So in order to get the death penalty from the Beis Din, a person needs to do like straightforward, without any deviation. Right, and then we said the third category was when the ointment that creams for illness is not life-threatening. Right, so we said, for example, a person suffered from minor, not minor, but from sunburn. Right, most likely, person is going to survive, but learned his lesson. So that's one of the cases, right? So we said preferably one should liquid medication or some kind of spray. That's preferable. So again, to remind us, if it's very dense, this cream, this ointment, it's forbidden on a biblical level. If it's not so dense, could be like it's still problematic. If it's free flowing, like oil, it's not forbidden at all. So meaning what? So if it's possible to treat this issue with a liquid or with a spray, so that's preferable, right? But if not, so we can try to do it with a shinui, right? With a shinui, meaning like to spread on a bandage and press the bandage. So in this case, we're not going to do the smearing. Okay. So now, right. Oh, no problem. So now we're going to number 4. Number 4, it's not a fourth category, but I mean maybe it's category as well. Let's see. Using ointment and creams on children. So children, as we understand, it's a different story. And it says children are more susceptible to illness than adults, and lack of proper care can easily damage the health of a child. The sages were very concerned with ensuring that the well-being of children. Therefore, they showed great leniency. When they set out the requirements by which children are classed as ill. Thus, while adults is not considered Choleh she'ein bo sakana, unless his illness debilitating enough to require the bed rest. So meaning that this is the second category when a person has to take to bed, right? So meaning it's a debilitating, like this earache, right? We said, or somebody has I don't know some other things, right? Like internal pain or something, a stomach pain, right? People have all of this kind of pain, unfortunately, right? And very like and from outside you cannot see what is going on inside, but some women, they will have this migraine, very strong, right? And from outside, like people might think that somebody's faking, but this person suffers like tremendously, right? So again, the whole sentence. Thus, a wild adult is not considered Choleh she'ein bo sakana. So meaning this second category, unless his illness is debilitated enough to require the bed rest, or causes such intense pain that his entire body is afflicted. A child is considered Choleh she'ein bo sakana if it suffers from any illness or injury that causes him distress or discomfort. Therefore, a child requires cream or ointment on requires cream or ointment on Shabbos to alleviate discomfort. One may employ the leniencies set out above regarding Chole Shein Bo Sakana. See the sanctity of Shabbos, chapter 53, for the age at which one ceases to be considered child with regard to this law. Okay, so let's review this part. So about children. So let's start, I guess, from the end. So up to 3 years, all of the children are considered to be in this category. So meaning a sick person whose life is not in danger. So meaning the second category. Even even if they have only minor things, but if it brings them discomfort, right? So that's enough for us to put them in that category. So meaning all of these biblically forbidden acts would be out of the question unless we ask non-Jew, or actually, as we said, there is a lenient opinion that would allow us to do it with a shinui. So now let's do from the beginning after this introduction. So again, the children are also meaning from, I apologize, and up to 3 years old. And we said there also, if I remember correctly, if a child is weak, right? So it could be even up to 7 or 9 years old. Up to 7 is according to majority opinion, but according to some opinion, even according to 9 years old. Right? So meaning a very weak child. Okay. No problem. So again, the children are more susceptible to the illness than adults, right? And that's why, since they're in this category, and it needs to be done something. For example, we can ask non-Jew to turn off air conditioner, or to turn on heat or something, right? Because this child or elderly person as well, so they can get sick very easily. And this sickness would affect them a lot, much more than adult, right? The sages were very concerned with in ensuring that the well-being of children, right? Therefore, they showed great leniency when they set out the requirements by which the child is classed as ill. So meaning it's not compared to adults. And again, I think it would be exceptions also if it's known that a child is sick, right? Some chronic disease, right? Somebody just wrote me, this poor mother, she's dealing with this child, and how much she puts the energy into this child, and she loves him, and the father is not there, unfortunately. See, he's very frustrated with the whole situation. So we should not know these things, but right, that's this story exists, unfortunately. Right. Thus, while an adult is not considered Chole Shein Bo Sakana, so meaning in this second category whose life is not threatened, unless its illness debilitating enough to require the bed rest, as we said over this example, the earache, I don't know, some severe headache even, right? Or other like internal disease, like even some fever, right? Some high fever from some infection or some some virus or something, right? For sure, stomach virus. Right? How many the stomach virus can knock down the biggest guy, the strongest guy, right? Right, the strongest guy. And now he's down, completely for a few days out, right? Because he ate something, because a tiny microbe entered his system. Very interesting, right? Or causes such intense pain that the entire body is afflicted. So it's debilitated or this pain. A child is considered in this second category if he suffers from illness or injury that causes him to distress or discomfort. So meaning we go as by his or her words. So if they suffer this and that, so we don't have to see it like spots, red spots, or some things, right? If they say they feel bad and they have pain, so we can believe them. Okay. Of course, I mean we have to believe them, but there is some children that make things up. I think it's a long time ago I heard like the psychological report, like I don't know what it was called. So some children, so they lack attention from the parents, and the only attention they get when they're sick. So they actually first they start faking it that they have some disease, so the parents would stay with them. But then they really got sick, right? From mental it came to physical, right? And sometimes it's still in their mind, and sometimes it's the actual disease they developed, even though it did not exist before. Unfortunately, psychology of a child. It's a scary thing, right? Therefore, if child, so we need to understand where it comes from, but that's a different story. Therefore, if child requires cream or ointment on Shabbos, right, to alleviate discomfort, one may employ the leniency set out regarding this second category person. So meaning, again, if something needs to be done on a rabbinical level, so if it's like olive oil, like a baby oil, no problem whatsoever, right? Usually people don't use olive oil today. Maybe adults, but children, there is like this baby oil. I think like it's the best, right? The most nutritious and take out all these things, right? Right. Okay. So okay. So children again, it's separate category, and now we go into the fifth category, which is local illnesses. Okay. If person is afflicted with a localized ailment or injury, even that one is intensely painful and causes definite discomfort, for example, headache or heartburn, okay, it is forbidden to transgress any Melachah on that person on his behalf, right, whether biblical or rabbinic. However, it is permitted to instruct non-Jew to perform a rabbinically prohibited act on his behalf. Therefore, one must instruct a non-Jew to smear a rabbinically forbidden cream in order to benefit a person suffering from localized illness. It is in the foregoing paragraphs, we noted several halachic differences between creams forbidden by biblical law and those forbidden by rabbinic law. However, it's extremely difficult, so I was waiting for this. It is extremely difficult to identify with certainty which ointments, right, and creams are prohibited by Torah law and which are by rabbinic law. Very, very interesting, right? Therefore, whenever the law of the particular cream or ointment is not defined, definitely known, one must assume that it is forbidden by biblical law. Okay, so that's end of number 5. So again, let's. So it's also very common, this localized illness, right? If person is afflicted with localized illness, localized ailment, right, or injury, okay, maybe some like a tiny burn, like from a fire, somebody touched the iron, I don't know, hot iron, something, right? Even one who is one that intensely painful and causes definite discomfort, for example, headache or heartburn. Okay, it is forbidden to transgress any Melachah on this behalf, whether biblical or rabbinic. So I mean, for example, if somebody has this issue again, these oils, right? They're not forbidden on any level. Okay, if needed. So right. But here again, this section is it's about, yes, it's about ointments, but also about general things, right? What we can do for a sick person, right? However, one is permitted to instruct non-Jew to perform a rabbinically prohibited act on his behalf. So now, as we understand, we scale down. So no more biblical, not even for a non-Jew, but only something that's forbidden rabbinically. Therefore, one must instruct a non-Jew to smear a rabbinically forbidden cream in order to benefit a person suffering from localized illness. So for rabbinically forbidden, so I would say it's somewhat flowing. So it's not like a dance, but somewhat flowing. But as he going to say, right? As we noted, there is a halakhic difference between the creams forbidden biblical laws and forbidden, and then those forbidden rabbinic law. Right, on one hand. But however, it's extremely difficult to identify with certainly which ointment forbidden by Torah law and which one is for a rabbinic law. So a Torah law, when it said like all of these thick substances, as we said, the wax, it would be like one of the what like thick creams, right? Right. So somebody showed me like an example. So I said this is forbidden on the biblical level. So what would they show me? I'm not sure what was it for. Was it for hands? I'm not sure. But it was some cream like from a coconut. So it smells as a coconut, like, but it's so thick, for sure. So that's meaning right for sure it would be forbidden on the biblical level. So on a rabbinic level, it's something that's flowing. But to see how good it's flowing, how fast it's flowing, so it's hard to understand. Even though we said like theoretically, if you put a finger in there in a jar, and then you remove the finger, and after some time this hole is going to close it by itself, so that would be forbidden on a rabbinic level. Therefore, right, whatever the law of the particular cream of ointment is not definitely known, right, one must assume that it's forbidden on a biblical level. Okay. So we finished that chapter. And we're going to start BeEzrat HaShem, new chapter, and topic, it's a number, chapter is, 28. And topic is cutting. Mechateich. So Melachcha of Cutting. Cutting, Mechateich, right, is one of the 39 Avos Melachos. Like all Avos Melachos, the Melachah of Cutting derives from the activity performed in the construction of the Mishkan, namely cutting of animal height to size. So just to remind us quickly, so that's the whole of Melachah, right? So cutting, since the animal heights were different size, and we had to do universal spread of the Mishkan, so they had to cut to precisely forms. I have maybe a rectangular, right, to this size. Okay, so and as we're going to see, many things actually is going to fall under this Melachah. So number 2, definition. Melachah of Cutting is defined as cutting, tearing, chopping, or breaking of an item in order to bring it to specific shape. Okay. Specific shape, of course, like toilet paper, right? Other, like, what else we have perforation? Paper towels, right? So again, the Melachah of Cutting is defined as cutting, tearing, and chopping. So meaning tearing in destructive fashion is also going to be forbidden even on rabbinic decree. So meaning that we have to be careful. As I said before, it always bothers me, and sometimes especially when you have guests, you want to say something, but you don't want to embarrass the person. So I try to find a smart way to communicate this thing. So right, this is very, very prevalent when people sitting around the table for a long time and they start playing with a napkin, and they try to tear napkins many pieces. That's the problem. So of course, if you host, say, oh, you finished? Let me. No. I want to give you like a clean plate. Put your napkin there. So take your plate of this person, give them a clean plate, give them a fresh napkin. Most likely they're not going to play with that. They're not going to tear. So that's the only solution that I know, right? But otherwise, it would be very embarrassing. Later on, if you can tell them, right? So we're not allowed to cut. To cut, tear, chop, breaking of item. Okay. So section number 3. Necessary condition for Melachah to apply. There are several requirements that must be fulfilled before act of cutting can qualify as a Torah violation, right, of this Melachah. Melachah of cutting. They are, so 4 conditions. A, one must cut an object in exact size or shape, right? B, the purpose of cutting must be to enable the object to be used. So that's, here we go, this toilet paper and what is it? Second one is paper towels, right? One must cut or any other things, right? For example, person wants this plastic, right? Wrap in plastic, right? Or aluminum foil, right? They want to wrap something to put in the refrigerator for storage. Would be in this category. Right? Maybe it's not precise, like but the measurement is not precise, but it's precise enough because you want to wrap this whatever piece of something, of chicken, and you want to put in your refrigerator for sure. Falls under this problem, right? I mean, it's precise like measurement to cover this this piece of chicken, let's say. Continue. One must employ the methods of cutting usually employed for the object at hand. Okay, so now it's right as other people will do it. And the last one, D, it must be detached object. So detached from the ground, I guess. But now we will now elucidate these requirements. So before we go to elucidation, let's try to repeat. So necessary condition for Melachah. There are several requirements that must be fulfilled before act of cutting can qualify as a Torah violation. So Torah violation is what? That meaning the person is going to get a death penalty. Right, to Melachah to be cut. And they are, number A, one must cut the object to exact size or shape, right? B, the purpose of cutting must be to enable the object to be used, right? So we'll see. What is it? C, one must employ the methods of cutting usually employed for an object at hand. So meaning some would be with a scissor, some would be with a hand. And D, it must be detached object. Okay, so let's at least start. So A, cutting to exact size or shape. One requirement is that a person must cut or tear or chop an item to a specific size. For example, one who cuts piece of paper to measure a certain number of inches, or one who cuts a picture out of the larger paper, a larger piece of paper, has violated the Melachah of cutting. If, however, one cuts an item to approximate size, he has not violated the Melachah of cutting. Accordingly, if one cuts a piece of paper merely to reduce its size, but not to do the particular size in mind for the finished product, he has not transgressed the Melachah. See below concerning rabbinic prohibition. As we said, rabbinically, it's all of this would be forbidden, even in destructive fashion. I mean, apologize. So in destructive fashion, if it's for the needs of Shabbos, it would be allowed. For example, you can you have some food, right, that is sealed, and you need to get the food. Yes, you can cut it and get the food out, right, and seal back or something. Okay. So that's a different story, and you would need to get rid of this package, of course. So let's do from the beginning. So A, cutting to exact size or shape. One requirement is that the person must cut or tear or chop an item to specific size. So specific size meaning specific size, what the size that they need. Maybe it's not measured precisely, but whatever they need. For example, they need a piece of something to feed. I don't know what would be. Like aluminum foil. Some people they put like under the grids, right, on the stove, like aluminum foil, like in to cover the bottom. So all of the spills would go on the foil. So later on you just throw out the foil, and it's absolutely like clean or almost clean, much better than with spills would go directly on the stove. So meaning I don't think anybody would measure with a ruler or something, right? But they approximately they cut and then they bend. But approximately that's what they need. Okay, so this is a specific size, right? For example, one who cuts piece of paper to measure in certain number of inches, or who cuts, right? So that's another example. So certain amount of inches, or is for example, he needs a half of the page, right, on the A4 format, right? So now A11. I think it's A11, sorry. So A11 formats, right? So meaning they know exactly how much this half of the page is going to be, or quarter of the page. Okay. So it's also a specific format. Or one who cuts picture out of the large piece of paper. So, right, they want to cut some picture from, I don't know, it would be destroying the picture, but that's a different story. But we got the point. So they have a picture of a cat or something, right, in a children's book, and they want that to cut it out. So that would be like specific, like size of the picture that cover that where you have cat. Okay. Continue. So this person violates the Melahcha of Cutting if however one cuts an item to approximate size, has not violated the Melachah of Cutting, right? Accordingly, if one cuts a piece of paper merely to reduce the size, right, but has no particular size in mind for the finishing product, he has not transgressed the Melachah. Right, so, but of course, did not transgress Melachah on a biblical level, but on a rabbinical, yes. So, and as we said, this thing is going to be the thing, as I said, with the stove. Of course, we don't touch the stove; it smokes. But just in general, even though it is not exact size, but very close to whatever they need. Or somebody cuts not on Shabbos, but for example, she needs to wrap something in this plastic, right? And in a plastic that is in a roll, right, or in aluminum foil. So it's not exactly, but exactly what for the item that I need to cover. Okay, so next, it's like subtopic under this. A, and it says cutting apart preshaped or premeasured items, objects. Okay, we have explained that the Melachah of Mechatech, so it's cutting, right? It requires a person to cut an object to specific size or shape. To this we now add to single object. I'm saying to this we now add that to single object the act of cutting must give new size or a shape. For example, if one does when he cuts a single piece of cloth into precisely shaped pieces. However, if all of the acts of cutting accomplish to separate two previously defined and independent object, each of which its own shape, it does not violate the Melachah of Cutting. For example, example would be the tearing a leaf from the branch. Even while attached, both the leaf and the branch are recognized as individual object. Each possesses particular shape and does not change when they are separated. Since the act of cutting does not separate a new shape, not create a new shape in either object, it is not biblically forbidden under the prohibition of cutting. Another example would be the tearing of the button from the garment, right? Which since both button and the garment are separate and defined object, even while attached, tearing them does not violate the biblical prohibition of cutting. Okay, so let's try to review this beautiful, it's a side point, but very important, very important. Okay, so again, cutting apart preshaped or premeasured objects. So again, from the beginning, we're going to explain, because I mean he did not draw the conclusions, I think, but it could confuse people that whatever he says he is allowed. It's not allowed. Whatever this example, it's not allowed, but the person is not going to transgress Melachah of Cutting, but the person is going to transgress different Melachos. We're going to explain. Okay, so from the beginning, we have explained that Melachah of cutting requires a person to cut the object to a specific size or shape. So exactly as it was with these heights. Okay, size and shape. So far, so good. So this paper towel is the best example, right? To this we now add that to a single object, an act of cutting must give a new size or shape, right? For example, if one does when he cuts single piece of cloth into precisely shaped object. So that's a piece of cloth, right? So it was a big one, and now it's different sizes, whatever they need. Okay. However, if all of the acts of cutting accomplished to separate two previously defined independent objects, so meaning it was not part of the whole, they were just attached, right, to each other, but totally separate. So, for example, these paper towels that, I mean, you cannot say that they are a different object. They the same object, right? But there is a perforation, but it's the same object. Okay, each with its own size and shape, right? So as a leaf and a tree is a good example. It does not violate the Melachah of Cutting. So meaning, right? So if it's two separate objects with each own size and shape, so it does not violate of Melachah of Cutting, but just I'm adding for myself, it's going to violate different Melachas. So and we start with examples. Example would be tearing leaf from the branch. So tearing a leaf is we have a different Melachah, so we cannot tear something from the place where it grows, especially in this case that it attached to the ground, right? That it's going to be harvesting, right? We have this violation, right? This different Melachah that we cannot harvest, meaning something that attached to the ground. And we said even under this Melachah also things that attach to a person in a sense, the hair, right? That's why we cannot pet animals and cannot bite nails, of course, not cut nails, right? Women cannot pluck the hairs, like eyebrows or something. Okay. So under this Melachah is also forbidden to tear the leaf from the tree, but cutting is not violated. So other Melachah violated, but our topic is cutting. It's not any other. So but still it's not allowed. What I'm trying to say, it's not allowed, but under different Melachah. Okay. So and now the explanation why it's not the violation of this Melachah. Even while attached, both leaf and branch are recognizably individual object. Each possesses particular shape that does not change when they are separated. Meaning the branch is going to be exactly branch as it is, and leaf is going to be exactly the shape as leaf is, right? Since this act of cutting does not create two new shapes, so again, two new shapes, of either object, it is not biblically forbidden under prohibition of cutting, but it is forbidden under different prohibition. So again, because shape did not change, right? And they are totally separate object attached together. Another example would be tearing the button from the garment. So it is not violation of Melachah of Cutting, but it is the violation Melachah of tearing. So we said you'll be not allowed to sew on Shabbos, and we can now tear. So tear, like as we said, right? So in Beis Hamikdash, they would tear a little of the curtain, right? Right, and like when it was cold, to make it a little longer, it would be easier to fix. So that's the thing. All right. So 1 second. Okay. So meaning, but still, since the button and let's say jacket, two separate things, well defined. So when a person tears off the button from the jacket, what changed? Nothing changed. The button is a button, and the jacket is a jacket. Right. So that's why there is no violation of the biblical Melachah, but it's of this Melachah of cutting, but violation of different Melachah.